We take a single episode of a science fiction TV series and overanalyze it to within an inch of its life. This is the Fusion Patrol Podcast. Welcome to the discussion. Hello and welcome to another episode of Fusion Patrol. I'm Eugene.
And I'm Ben.
And tonight we are going to be looking at the early 1970s series Doomwatch, episode 7, sort of.
I believe 7, yeah.
It's 7, but 7 don't exist, so I think it's a fourth one we've reviewed, because fourth or fifth one we reviewed, but because they don't exist anymore. But it is technically episode 7 and it's called The Devil's Sweets, which is an interesting title in and of itself. Very brief summary of this episode. Doomwatch team has been co-opted by the Ministry of Health to help out with some surveys on tobacco usage in Britain. And they're all pretty sick of it too. You can tell from the staff reactions. But suddenly, a strange anomaly appears. In one particular area, a 49% increase in smoking has occurred. In fact, for one particular brand, it's up over 100%. And this anomaly is bucking the trend of smoking decreasing. And Doomwatch goes to take a look at it. Meanwhile, their secretary, Miss Honeyset, has just started smoking again after many years. And it happens to be this very brand that's experiencing this strange increase. First, they check with the company, and they attribute it all to remarkable new marketing techniques. But research ties this with a sweets campaign where candy was being given out in unmarked wrappers, and the people who work in the factory have an increased use of the tobacco product from this particular brand. Quist thinks he's on to something, and after talking with the marketing executive behind this, a particularly sleazy type, he goes to the university where he did his research in psychology and discovers that they worked with phototropic chemical conditioning. An investigation ensues, and we learn that there's an insidious side to the increase in smoking. So, what did you think of the episode?
Well, to me, it really kind of smacked as being an enormous anti-smoking campaign. But done with a sci-fi twist, of course.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the one thing that really kind of interests me in this episode. I think that smoking, and this is presented, and at one point they call it, the big C. And it sounds kind of new to them. But I don't really get that they're being at all preachy about the smoking thing. They're being preachy about the use of subliminal, or not this is technically subliminal advertising, but chemically induced advertising through the story. But what I do kind of find interesting, and I don't know what the answer is, in 1957 in the United States, the Surgeon General came out with their first statement that said something to the effect of, we see a causal link between smoking and lung cancer. And it was in 1964 that they came out with this groundbreaking report that said, this is definitely what the cause is. And if you look at the history of it, by 1968, some 70% of people in the United States at least accepted or believed that smoking caused cancer. Now, having, lived through that, I was born in 64, so that the year that came out, and throughout my life, I've seen smoking decrease. But I've also been a watcher of television and movies, both U.S. and English, throughout all those years. And I don't know if it's a reflection of the mindset behind television or the laws behind it, or whether it's a difference in cultural attitudes, but it seems to me that smoking continued longer. Not that people don't smoke now, but in other words, it was still very, very much in the forefront longer in British television. Now, I don't know if that's true in British society. It may very well be that in the United States, there was pressure to reduce it from movies and TV. And so we're seeing an artificial reduction. And Britain was more realistic. Or it could simply be that it took longer for that to kick in. Because this in 1970 feels like there's still a little doubt in my mind from some of the things that people say, like, everybody still smokes, and yeah, okay, I've heard that, but if there are any British listeners who can tell us whether or not that's perceived or real, it would be interesting to find out.
Simon, get on it.
Simon's too young.
That's true. But the question was asked, what did I think of the episode? I thought it was your standard, fair, Doomwatch kind of episode. Like I said, to me, it seemed like that maybe it was you did point out the fact that it felt maybe that it was more of a marketing episode, or anti-marketing, anti-chemical dependence, whatever you want to call it. I kind of thought, to me, it did kind of feel more like it was, more anti-smoking, but they had really masked it with a lot of sci-fi layers to it. It did come across a little vague. Maybe it could be thought of as an anti-chocolate campaign. Who knows?
It's interesting. Other episodes of Doomwatch have generally been doomsaying, if you will. Oh, the rats will take over.
Well,
the plastic eaters will destroy everything.
Will take over. Yeah, because it's very anti-advertising agency.
Man, that guy was really sleazy.
Oh, he was slimy.
From the sleazy mustache to the sleazy way he smoked his cigarettes to the sleazy way he dressed in the big collar. He was...
To his sleazy mustache, yeah.
He was sleazy.
Everything about him was he was just smarmy all over the place.
So what do you think of the premise? Chemical cause... How did that work? I didn't understand that. So the chemicals that are put into the chocolates somehow, and unbranded chocolates. Now that's a key part because the company, the chocolate company, who were grossly negligent by allowing this guy to tamper with their batch of chocolates without knowing what was in it.
It's supposed to be some sort of a blind test, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what he told him. But yeah, your business is on the line. You can't just let some marketing guy come in and slip a paint jug full of something into your chocolates to see what's going on. I found that the least credible piece of the episode.
Yeah, that was a stretch.
I'd have been far more inclined to believe it if the guy from the chocolate company was in on it. And that he knew what was being put in the chocolates.
I expected him to be in on it. I was really surprised. Yeah. Turns out he was more of I would call him an innocent pawn, but he was duped, clearly.
He was duped, yeah. And these chocolates somehow make you like the checkerboard pattern, which is, I wouldn't have called it a checkerboard pattern. It was more of a...
Not really.
Checkerboard pattern is more regular, but it was like an encoded... It looked more like a QR code.
Yeah.
Than a checkerboard pattern.
Big QR code, but yes, you're right.
Somehow this drug makes you crave that checkerboard pattern, which makes you
want to get the cigarettes.
Right. How do they program them? How do they program that checkerboard as opposed to another checkerboard? And does it work if it's upside down? Because it wasn't symmetrical checkerboard. It was, that part was very...
The only part that would have worked for me is if there was actually something in the pattern that if a person saw it. But then again, what would be the compulsion to actually want to go into the local drugstore, which is where you would get your cigarettes, and want to actually go and buy them? Because obviously you need to have a compulsion to go and buy them. It felt kind of...
Yeah,
it felt a little far-fetched. There's got to be some kind of programming involved there. And I really didn't get a sense of that.
I thought that there was something going on with the chocolates being in the unbranded, but I think the wrappers were still kind of had that checkerboard pattern on it.
I said, I really
but
didn't.
They weren't the same colors. I think they were like gold and black as opposed to red and black. But you would actually have to unwrap the chocolate and look at it in its entirety, which nobody does with a chocolate wrapper,
No.
unless you're OCD.
And even then,
you've got a collection.
They did tests on it, and for the sake of the story, they never discussed anything about the wrapping of the chocolate. It was all about what was in the chocolate itself.
And they did demonstrate on Miss Honeybatch that
What are you calling her again?
I don't know. What's her name?
Honeyset.
Honeyset.
Oh my God. And I couldn't believe what I thought I heard you call her at the very beginning of the show.
I think I got that from Sherlock's nickname.
Really?
Benny Cumbersnatch. Yeah.
Oh God. I just
never heard him call that one.
I have heard called, but when you say that about a woman, Honeyset, I mean, it has certain connotations to it.
I never thought of them until you just mentioned that.
Well, there you go.
It's like, must be subliminal.
Have you been having some chocolate lately?
I did just have a Kit Kat.
Well, there it is. Of course, you know what? Okay, no, there's some really weird places I could have gone with a Kit Kat. I don't think I will.
No, thank you. Thank you. Just stay away from that altogether. Yeah, so there was a little bit of farfetch, and they did put her on the machine, and they the brain reading machine, whatever they called it.
That was hooked up to the Doomwatch computer,
and it was only that particular checkerboard pattern that registered for her. And also, if you looked in the lab, the chickens that were being programmed were also being programmed to that, what looked to be the same checkerboard pattern.
Right.
Obviously, to my eye, I couldn't tell the difference. I suppose we could have taken screenshots and tried to compare the two. So we got a lot of the tension in this episode again. Mr. Ridge seems to be, I don't know, is he like an unwilling participant in Doomwatch? Because he's always kind of being a jerk to the boss, and he doesn't want to do things, and it's like, why is he there again?
I don't know. He was there from the very beginning.
Yeah. And
I don't know what his issue is, but yeah, he and Quist are always at odds with each other, and of course,
for no apparent reason.
No, I think Ridge is he's a bit of a playboy. He loves to flirt around, and I think that kind of sets against Quist's nerves.
Could be. That could be what it is.
That's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, he's always he's just a rather antagonistic character. But then I think everybody, well, they're all dysfunctional in some way or another. I mean, Quist is hardly a Boy Scout.
Oh no.
And he didn't there's no way he would ever win the Congeniality Award of the Year.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. So there's another little subplot going on here, and that is Miss Honeycutt gets Honeyset. That name just doesn't fit. I mean,
she gets ill. Where this is going to go now?
She gets ill.
Oh, very sick,
dying,
iron lung sick.
Yes.
I mean, they put her in a bloody iron lung.
You got to remember, 1970 medical technology was a lot more primitive. They didn't have Dr. McCoy's sterile field generator to go over, so they had to use the
moment anything looks, oh my God, critical condition,
iron lung. Isn't that the definition of critical? You can't breathe anymore or something?
Not necessarily. I mean, it seemed like it was more of I don't know, they never really specified exactly what was wrong. But
very sick.
Yeah, she was very sick, but there didn't seem to be any evidence that it was a respiratory issue that required an iron lung.
And other women were getting very sick. And so the advertising people know that Quist is on to them. And the people at the university, the professor at the university, who has taken some generous donations towards his lab from the cigarette company.
Imagine that.
Is totally aghast that his former student and marketing guy who wanted some of his chemical would use it on actual people. Which
that's a smoking gun. I mean, the moment the professor, oh, my student would never do anything like that. Okay, yeah, you're the first one who's complicit in all of this.
And yet he seemed like he was...
He seemed a bit
He seemed a bit innocent. I mean, not say...
Not innocent, but he felt like, when he got a full sense of what was really going on. I kind of get the feeling he was clearly lied to, much like everybody else was by our slimy ad guy. He lied to everybody. And I think once the university got a sense of what was really going on, he's like, ooh, I don't think I really want any part of this. This is not what you told me was going to happen.
Is that part of the lesson of this story?
Don't trust your students.
Well,
don't trust bad guys.
I can't envision. We kind of give the impression that the student came to him and the professor was kind of lamenting the fact that he can't test it on humans. And the student says, well, give me some of it and I'll see what I can do. It's like, to me, that seems like the professor knows that he's going to use it on people.
Yeah, but
because that's what he said.
True, but at the same time, he was lied to somehow, and this is the part that bothers me. We finally find out that first we find out that Pat is in the hospital, very sick, and then we find out that other women are in the hospital, also very sick. And the ad guy is like, the guy is so immoral.
Deny everything.
I mean, it means nothing to him that these women are sick. Mm-hmm. All he cares about is his bottom dollar. All he cares about is his success. He doesn't care who lives, who dies. I mean, I might be speaking, I might be exaggerating a bit, but that's kind of the way he was presented.
No. He was like, all we have to do is to stick to our story, and they can't do anything. They've got no proof, so they can't do anything about it. And that is somebody who is not concerned with the consequences.
Absolutely not.
Whereas the others, the
they all had a conscience.
They had a conscience. The professor slipped off.
Yeah, he slipped a little bit, but he was led to believe again that there would be no side effects. And this is the part that bothers me, is that when did the student become smarter than the teacher at this point?
Once I was the learner, now I am the master, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Because I would have imagined that the professor who's been working with this stuff, I mean, granted, he's not been able to use any human clinical trials, but he would still have a better understanding as to what possible side effects might exist by using this chemical. And he was just completely surprised at the idea that these women were into being hospitalized because of it. And
what was it again? Was it diet pills? Or did they find out it wasn't the diet pills? I thought they said...
Well, they found diet pills in Pat's purse, but it turns out the diet pills had nothing to do with it.
What was the thing causing the reaction?
They never really said.
Okay, that's good. That's what I thought. I thought that's what came out of it when I was watching. It's like, well, originally the smoking gun was this medicine with women taking diet pills.
Right.
But then suddenly...
No, they tested it. They didn't even refer to the other women at first. They just tested it, I guess, chemically. They worked it in a lab, compared it, because they went to Pat's place. They got the diet pills. They did some chemical combinations, whatever, and the result was negative.
So we don't know.
We really don't know, except that it's just a bad chemical, and it can, I guess, randomly affect women. Or anybody, for that matter, who takes it. But in this particular case, women.
I think they did... They did say women eat more chocolate than men.
Yeah, they did.
They did say that.
They did say that.
And
so maybe it's a consumption issue.
And although they didn't say it, I think we could also say that it bears true that women take more diet pills than men.
Well, by the fact that Pat had the diet pills in the first place does kind of imply that.
So, I mean, more likelihood of a reaction there, but it seems odd Pat would be first, considering it had been going on for a while with the factory workers and whatnot, but that's dramatic. Anyway, so our sleazy guy is trying to keep the others from
blowing the cover.
I all across the board, I can't believe that the professor didn't realize he was going to take it and give it to people. And the fact that he says, "Oh, I didn't think you were going to give it to people," sounded like a total lie
That
to
I don't
me.
believe. No, I believe that he knew it was going to be given, but he was. I firmly believe that he thought it would be harmless. But
Maybe he thought it would be given to consenting people.
maybe, but I'm sure he must have known
Yeah.
that his student was going to actually give that drug to humans. He had to have known. Shipton, that's that guy's name. Yeah, Shifty Shipton.
Shifty Shipton. And the guy who ran the chocolate factory, I'm reasonably sure that he didn't realize that there was something dangerous in there. But I'm also having trouble believing that he would let them tamper with the liqueurs in the chocolates and not know what it is, particularly when he talks about how important it is about it's not the Ministry of Health, but it's the Ministry of Chocolate Inspections or whatever it happens to be.
I thought it was the Ministry of Health.
Maybe it was the Ministry of Health.
It was the Ministry of Health, yes.
You just wouldn't do that. You couldn't do that with at least, yes,
No,
somebody could do it.
FDA.
I would definitely believe that you could convince somebody, an owner of a company, to do something shady and put it in your chocolate or put plastic chips in your plastic milk formula or whatever it happens to be. If it would benefit the company,
but you'd have to go along with it.
You'd have to know what it was.
Exactly. There's no way that anybody. I mean, the Ministry of Health is the UK's equivalent to our FDA. There is no way that anybody would just purely for a marketing purpose in the hopes of increasing sales would just blindly say, okay, sure, I'll let you do this. I mean,
I'm sure it's not cyanide. Yeah, I'm sure you're not putting cyanide in there, right?
No, but the first thing that would run to my head is, well, if you are going to try and find some way that's going to increase sales, you're probably going to put a narcotic in there so that people they'll become addicted to my chocolate.
Yeah. So I found that one. That was
not
a
stretch.
Plausibly deniable. And then the cigarette company executive. What do you think about his complicity in this? I couldn't tell.
Now that one's very vague.
I kind of feel like he was just stupid enough to think it was the new checkerboard pattern.
Yeah, I get so too. I mean, there's nothing really overtly shady in what was going on there. I mean, there really wasn't. I firmly think that he was just dumb enough to believe that the checkerboard pattern made the difference, and that Shipton fed him some BS to, I don't know, kind of convince him that was the case.
Well, I've got a degree in psychology, and that's what makes me a great advertising agent guy. That and my awesome mustache.
And my chauvinistic, bossy way around women.
Yeah, he wasn't very nice to his
he was a pig.
secretary. But let's face it, in Doomwatch, they're pigs to women.
True.
I mean, across the board, every episode, they're pigs to women.
Yeah, but in the case of Shipton, he was really a very mean pig. He was not nice. I mean, there's one thing to be, a sexual pig towards women and kind of objectify them, but Shipton was just a real jerk.
I mean, they are just the subject of his marketing campaign.
Yeah.
So they are not cattle per se, but they are fodder for his mill. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about the episode. I watched the episode and I kind of like, yeah, well, that's another one we better watch out for in the future, that they might be chemically inducing
some kind of product just to
products on us.
What did you think of Quist's little trick, reporting that Pat had died?
That was interesting. Quist is obviously a better reader of personalities, because if from the audience point of view, as we're watching this, you can see that the ad man wants to keep fixed and, stick with our story. They can't prove anything. And we're, it's just libel if he says that. And the two other guys, the cigarette executive and the chocolate executive, are both showing signs of having a conscience. and they're sweating it out. So it's really a question of whether or not they're going to go with self-preservation or they're going to go and crack and basically put themselves under the chop for admitting that they've been part of this. So I understand why Quist did it. Once there's a death, that makes it more serious and hope that they would crack.
Well, especially when, Quist knows. Despite when we talked about how the men were objectifying women and Ridge is no exception to that, but he genuinely liked Pat. There was no question about it. He cared about her on some level. Maybe he objectified her. Yeah, well, of course he did. But he still liked her. And I think Quist was, as you said, he was a reader of people, and he knew that it would bring out that edge in Ridge's character, and maybe, I don't know.
I think
it's kind of scare the other guys into talking.
Ridge is Quist is manipulating Ridge more than he is the guys in the room, in a way. He's making Ridge go ape on them and get violent, as an ex-spy would do. The only question is, did he have to have Toby tell him? In other words, Quist could have hung up the call and turned to Ridge and said, Pat's dead. And I think the reaction would have been the same, right? And for that matter, Ridge is a secret agent. He's a tough guy who can do a tough job. Quist could have just said, go tell him Pat's dead. Make it look real. And I think Ridge could have done it.
It's possible, but I think, I don't know, that whole plausible deniability bit.
If it'd been Toby, that'd be different. I could see Toby being unable to act his way out of a paper bag if they said, no, go pretend like they're dead.
Yeah, well, the thing
could have done it.
I'm not sure, because Ridge has a certain bravado to him. He really does. And I have to kind of wonder, could he be authentic? I'm not sure about that.
You'd have to be able to bluff your way in, and like he does in other episodes, and do the spy stuff.
And every single one of them, it looks absolutely horrible. Well, I wouldn't say horrible, but it looks very flimsy. When his reaction to the news of Pat being dead felt more sincere. Especially the way he was just backhanding the snot out of Shipton, which I must admit I enjoyed enormously.
Yeah, but when he did that, he had to touch the mustache. Ew. He could have lost his hand for that.
That or the mustache would have flown right off.
You don't think that was real? I think that was real. That was real.
Oh God, no!
That was a real.
That thing looked like it had spirit gum all over the place.
I think that guy in the 1970s. I think that was his. You know how there was actors that would get certain types of jobs and they would cultivate their look. I think that guy with that face, with or without the mustache, he's a sleazy guy.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you he played sleazy guy number 2 in dozens of British television programs.
I just don't think it's. I seem to remember that there was one scene where it, for whatever reason, the mustache looked wrong. It's brief. I can't remember now, but there's one scene.
Where it was talking to him.
I think it's when he's in his office, and something just doesn't look right with the mustache, and that's when I thought, okay, no, that looks a little fake to me.
You know what it looks like to me? It looks like Devon's mustache on the Star Lost.
Yes, it does.
See, maybe that's why I think it's real, because I'm sure Devon's is real.
Yeah, actually, Keir Dulley's mustache was real, because I remember seeing that documentary with him and Douglas Trumbull. That they were using to pitch the show, and he had the hair and the mustache for that.
1970s. That was one of the looks that at one time straight men could get away with.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's a hideous look myself.
I can't say that it's the most appealing feature a human being could have.
That's why I'm glad that went away in the 70s.
Anyway, what else we got on this episode?
I don't really have a whole heck of a lot. And that's, I mean, like I said, it was an enjoyable episode. I mean, it has its plot holes, without a question. But it was actually, to me, it felt kind of like a bit of a diversion. I mean, you would consider some of the past Doom Patrol, that's a comic book. The past Doomwatch episodes we've had. I mean, with, that one astronaut who goes mental, or rats that have become incredibly intelligent, or, plastic eating bacteria. It's still, you've got something, those are kind of, big and epic and global. And this is just about cigarette addiction.
This is just not as, this is not as doomy.
No, it isn't. So it felt like a real departure from it, which made it a little refreshing.
Do you think it was a departure from Kit Pedler and Jerry Davies' brief on the show? Because this is written by Don Shaw, and I don't offhand know how many other episodes written by Don Shaw that we've watched so far, but I did feel like either maybe they were running out of things to destroy the world. We did have the episode where the computers were collecting a lot of data on people, and that wasn't exactly doomy. That was just...
No, but it was pretty serious, though, because that was ruining people's lives in a very sinister sort of way.
Not just killing them by putting them on an iron lung kind of thing, but yeah.
But there with this one, it's all because you've got this one jerk of an ad guy. I mean, he's at the center of all of this. With the other ones, there's something that seems to be a bit more, I wouldn't say nefarious, but something definitely intentionally serious or negligent that could be very threatening to society, if not humanity.
Yet another thing that we should be looking out for in the future is that they will be manipulating you through advertising. And the funny thing is, I thought was that they constantly sort of refer to subliminal advertising, but I don't know if this falls under the category of subliminal advertising. I mean,
not Ridge in the strictest sense.
Yeah, Ridge explains it. It's like you watch a movie and you see one frame, and then suddenly you have to go buy a Coca-Cola.
Again, I think it might have been a veiled attempt at possibly smearing against subliminal advertising. Because I remember in school learning about that. So I think it was in one of my science classes, and there was talk about the evils of subliminal suggestion and how it, for a time here in the U.S., it was actually being done. And then I guess the government just stepped right in and said, no more, and put an end to it. And it was around that time. So I'm wondering if that same situation was being mirrored in British society.
Ever since they put in the transatlantic cable, communication's been getting a little bit better. So yeah, I'd say there probably was a parallel. And
in science fiction, they're very good, and I say that loosely, at taking a very serious theme and masking it enough, maybe too much, so that the point you're trying to make does get a bit muddy. And then you're not quite sure, well, what are you trying to tell us? Are you trying to say that, we shouldn't trust subliminal messages, or what, we shouldn't trust ad agencies, especially guys with bad mustaches, or maybe we should eat less chocolate here? I don't know. It got a little murky in whatever message it might have been trying to convey. And like I said, was it against cigarette smoking? Yeah. Was it against subliminal messaging? Very possible.
Well, I think that's probably more than needs to be said about the Devil's Sweets. By the way, Don Shaw, who wrote one other episode we've reviewed, and that was Re-Entry Forbidden.
Oh, the astronaut episode.
Yeah.
Which was not a bad one.
Not a bad one, but
also
disturbing,
very depressing ending.
Not as doomy, though.
No. Well, it had the potential of being very doomy.
Oh, that's right. See, they had to...
The radioactive fallout.
So now think about this for a second. All right. the radioactive fallout from the Doomwatch, from the re-entry Forbidden one, was kind of like an added thing. In other words, the whole story would have worked just fine without that, oh, and if it does happen, it'll kill millions with radioactive fallout. Because the story itself was really about the astronauts living and dying and the process. So that's almost like, we need a little extra jeopardy in here, or we can't find an excuse to justify Doomwatch. So let's make it a radioactive, an atomic.
And even then, the science was really poor. It felt overly sensationalized for the sake of the story.
And then in this episode, really, we don't have any doomy thing. The whole story could have been done without the people going on to the iron lungs, because that feels like it was added in to add extra jeopardy to this situation. So maybe this guy's had a couple of solid concepts that he wanted to talk about, and script editor sits down and says, that's good, but we need to kill more people, or potentially kill more people to make, to make this Doomwatch and not just bad things to happen watch.
Yeah.
So
very possible.
Okay. Well, next time on Fusion Patrol, we will be looking at an American show, I assume.
Oh, no. I can only imagine.
Well, actually, what have we got right at the moment? We've cleared out we've cleared out Man from Atlantis.
Oh, thank God.
So we've got Starlost.
At least a Starlost, but we did Starlost,
which, by strict definition, North American. So we haven't started another American show.
No, we haven't.
So maybe,
although you've talked about Fantastic Journey,
there's a possibility. And then also we've got to pick up again with some more Blake's 7.
Oh, that would make me very happy.
So we'll probably do the American show then.
Oh, God.
Well, we hope you'll join us again next time on Fusion Patrol.
Cheers.
Fusion Patrol is a Lone Locust production. Like us, leave us a review on iTunes. Or stop by and visit at our website, fusionpatrol.com. Find us on Facebook or Twitter. Search for Fusion Patrol. Or just drop us a note at feedback@fusionpatrol.com. Our music is Fight the Future by Amber Wolf.